I've been called to just sit down and do a collective reading today, so that's what we're going to provide. And we're just going to let whatever messages want to come through for whoever needs to hear them. With any reading, obviously, always just take what resonates and leave the rest. Use your intuition and your own ability to interpret and apply as needed and as resonates. Okay, I'm weirdly hearing the word spelunking, which is cave diving. Spelunking, going underground, exploring like the inner earth, inner self, subconscious, exploring something deep, hidden in the dark. But it's like it's a profound, maybe a little frightening, but also it's exploration. It feels adventurous. It feels intuitively expanding is kind of the words I want to use. Okay, we have ask. Ask us to help you in this situation, and we will immediately go to work on your behalf. We're governed by many universal laws, and among them is the free will that allows you to make your own choices and decisions. So we patiently await your request. If you are in this internal space and you're going spelunking into the self and you have these questions and you need a guide or, that mentor to light the way with the lantern, ask. And I'm also seeing somebody wearing a headlamp, like those bands of like a flashlight that sits on the forehead. This feels very symbolic of the third eye. It's like using your intuition to be able to see into those dark spaces, and to ask the right questions means that you'll get the right answers. Something about the ancestors is coming up as well. So you may be looking into the past or into the subconscious or like inner earth spaces to find something of a like ancestral residue that was lost down there. I'm seeing like a caved in cave, and I'm hearing cave dwellers, and I'm seeing like, I'm hearing the word spelunking again, but I'm seeing like cave drawings on the wall, and something about it being caved in and having to crawl through these tiny spaces to get to this information or to find out the history or the past or whatever it is that we're talking about here. Something about the self that was hidden in the past through the ancestry. Child. You care deeply about children, and they readily respond to your love. All children, including your own, require love, affection, and attention. And I would also say your inner child. We can clear and open your heart and schedule so that you can give more time and energy to the children who need you. The inner children, the inner child. Entrepreneur. Self-employment suits your disposition and intentions. Working for yourself allows you to better follow your intuition, and divine guidance. We are your coworkers and teammates who remain loyally by your side to ensure your success in all ways. Now this one's from a different deck, but I do feel it. So let's take that. Kindness. And blessing in disguise. What appears to be a problem is actually part of your answered prayer. You'll understand the reasons behind your present situation as everything resolves. Trust in heaven's protection and infinite wisdom to answer your prayer in the best way. So ask and it is answered. The universe is inherently kind, but there's something about this feeling of like, going into this cave is dangerous, or exploring this is, it's like not something that we take lightly. It's not something that should be explored with wild abandon. Like, you need to have a proper guide for that. You need to have those headlights, you need to have those spiritual tools and resources at your disposal so that you don't get lost down there yourself and end up in this caved in cave that trapped your ancestors in some way. Notice the signs. Yes, the signs you've been receiving are heaven sent. We drop feathers, coins, and other signs upon your path to remind you that you're loved and never alone. I keep seeing those cave drawings clairvoyantly. That's what I'm being shown. So it's like those signs that were left behind by people of the past. And it feels like in some way it's showing you your way. It's showing you the way. Time to go. The sun sets and rises each day. And it's the same with avenues in your life. I wanted to call it adventures again. See the beauty within each sunset in your life and know that the sun will also rise again tomorrow. Endings are merely the start of a new beginning, and we are with you through each phase and cycle. And then play. Beloved, when it's time to set aside work for a while, don't worry. We will oversee your responsibilities to their completion. Playfulness, gaiety, and laughter will lift your energy so that you return to work with a renewed perspective and heightened energy. So inner child feels like it's needing some energy to sustain it, especially if you feel very pushed to work. Or maybe you're being pushed out of doing the physical work. If you're an entrepreneur, if you own your own business, if you're self-sustaining in that way, or if you work for someone else, but it specifically says entrepreneur here, and it feels like your inner child really needs a break. Because I can tell you, like, when you work for yourself, nobody tells you to take breaks. You have to tell yourself to take breaks. And sometimes that's not as easy as it sounds. Okay, so you may actually be like kind of forced into taking a break in some way to reflect on what you want and what you're needing here out of this deep dive into this introspective space or into this inner cave, or like finding what came before. So this card says, what do you desire? You now have the opportunity to write the script according to your heart's true desires. Once you clearly decide upon your true desires and know that you're ready and deserving of them, they'll rush into your life as if by magic. I'm actually hearing be kind to yourself. The inner child is looking to play and blow off some steam here is what I'm getting. Like the spelunking feels fun, but also very serious. So it's an interesting combination of both. Cleanse and detoxify. With great love and respect, we ask you to detoxify your precious and sensitive body. At your request, we'll help you to develop life-affirming ways to deal with stress, as well as ease any sorrow at shedding your old ways. Give your cares, worries, and concerns to us, and feel the beautiful grace of your newly purified body. I'm hearing chrysalis, and I'm being shown a halo over the head. And then on the bottom, reward yourself. You've been giving a lot of yourself lately, and it's time for you to receive. Make the time to reward yourself in a meaningful way. This balance of giving and receiving is essential to keep your energy, mood, and motivation at a consistently high level. So some of you, especially if you work in caring professions, are in service to others, or own your own business, or are self-employed in some way, you are needing, take this as a very clear sign, you are needing some time to rest, to cleanse, to not be at work, to play, to change some old habits, to be kind to yourself here. And I think that the spelunking comes along with that. Now, the other deck I was called to here was this cat tarot. So maybe there's a message here about sensitivity because the cat, we did see that. And which one was it? Yeah, this one, cleanse and detoxify your sensitive body. Cats are very sensitive and they are very fastidious in their cleaning of themselves. They take good care of themselves. They rest a lot. My cat is currently sleeping on the couch. And so it's a known thing that cats don't really have to remind themselves to do. So this feels like a lesson from the spirit of the animals here, 8 of Cups, to take care of yourself. And some of that may be walking away. Some of that may be exploring something deeper, Knight of Swords. And asking the right questions. Yeah, ask the right questions. So what are you walking away from? What are you asking here? Or what are you being asked to ask? Which is an interesting phrase. What are you being asked to ask? The Lovers. I just heard, where have you been neglecting yourself? And I'm seeing somebody tapping their head and going, forgetful, forgetful, forgetful. Where have you been forgetting yourself? Where have you been paying too much attention to another person, to your work, to whatever responsibilities or obligations or pressures of life that have been placed in your path? Where have you been neglecting yourself, and where do you need to start prioritizing you? Six of Cups. Okay. In reverse as well. So this is childhood play, again, childhood memories and the past. So you know what? I feel like the pressures of the past are getting to you. Whoever this message is for, it's like there's pressures from the past that have been received and in some way like anchored into your field, and it's been very difficult for you to take a minute. It feels like the weight of your ancestors are on your shoulder, basically, like, to just put it quite plainly. It feels like you've been carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders, and your inner child is being crushed under that weight. And you don't need to be buried in that same cave as the ancestors. You don't need to take on the weight of that world or those boulders or those rocks. What you do need is to understand what's there. What you do need is to reclaim this sense of play that is going to uplift you, that's going to help to take some of that weight off, or to manage it in a way that doesn't feel quite so heavy. But I think a lot of it is also releasing, being kind to yourself by releasing some of these memories, some of this pain, some of this sense of responsibility that you claim for some reason. And maybe that's the right question to ask. Why do you feel like you need to carry this? Why are you the one who has to? And I'm hearing stumped, and I'm being shown a tree stump. The family tree was cut, or do you feel like you've had to do all of the work of restoring something or healing something in the family tree? Do you feel like you're the only one who can do it? Maybe that's true, maybe it is, but does that mean that you have to? Or does that mean that it needs to consume you? Because I feel in this energy that that's counterproductive, to take it all on into yourself. It just creates more suffering, and that's harming the tree. And I'm seeing the rings of the tree. I'm seeing the stump from above now, like top down, and I'm seeing those rings. It's like memory, growth patterns, cycles. And it's right in there. It's like there's these rings in your heart that you're meant to understand and get back to, but not to tally. I didn't mean to say tally either. Not to dally too long. But maybe, okay, you know what? As soon as I got that sentence out, I started seeing somebody locked in the cave. And when you're like in a prison and you see that trope of like the prisoner carving into the wall how many days they've been there, you don't have to keep tallying, because you're not meant to be trapped there. I feel like you need to shift some things so that you can get out, or so that you can find your way out. Because I feel like you went in there. I feel like you went in there intentionally to do this work, but maybe you lost the sense of play along the way as it got darker and it got deeper and you got a little more claustrophobic and confined, or as things caved in, and the exploration kind of went by the wayside, and the adventure and the aspects of the inner child that were enjoying the process kind of slipped up, and the fear started to take over, or the darkness started to get to you. And I think, again, that's why it's so crucial that you have that headlight on, so that you can see clearly through the third eye, so you can see beyond what that density is projecting back to you, like the Plato's cave. It's just a hologram. You don't have to succumb to that. But I feel like you needed to see something down there, but you're not meant to like live down there. You're not meant to stay down there permanently. Ace of Pentacles, okay? It's like you went, look at this the cat's paw coming out and catching the rat by the tail. It's like you meant to go down there to discover something important. You meant to go down there to reclaim your wealth, I just heard. Okay. You went down there to reclaim your wealth. So perhaps some of what you are retrieving there, memory-wise, or what you've taken on responsibility-wise, is a blessing in disguise, but it's not meant to be carried solely on your shoulders. You're not responsible for what happened to the people who came before you. You're only responsible for you and what you do in this life. And if you have children, yes, you're responsible for them, but only to a certain point, because they're still individuals. And even if they're in a child's body, they're still souls at varying levels or degrees of their spiritual development. So I feel like you're getting a hold of something here. You're understanding. You got the Ace of Cups on the bottom, 2 aces. You're understanding kind of like where you're literally standing. You're understanding where you're standing. And I feel like you taking the time to care for yourself now is actually deepening that layer of understanding and unlocking the blessing in some of the difficult things that you experienced while going down into this work, or going down into the depths of what came before. Okay, there's a message coming through about your desires. Once you know that you're ready and deserving of them, they'll rush into your life as if by magic. So it feels like you're looking at these desires through a new lens now, or you're seeing them differently. I'm hearing more purposefully. And I think that the way that you're going to access those desires, or you're going to become a vibrational match to them, is really to walk away from this endless searching. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't come back to the cave when needed, or if you feel like you're missing something and you need that, then sure, you can do that work. But there's some aspect of this where it's like it was fun and it was playful, but then until it wasn't. And now it's time to go. It's time to get out of that space. Maybe it's like this phase of the healing is done. There's no more you can do there, and you need to come out of it. And to stay there longer is going in the opposite direction of the healing. It's actually harmful. You know, it's kind of like always looking for some deep shadow work to do. And we talk a lot about shadow work on both of my channels. That is a main theme. I do a lot of readings on shadow work, and going into this reading, and that's what it felt like, the cave representing that aspect of shadow work and that deep diving into the darkness. But there's a time and place for everything. And too much of a good thing can become a bad thing. You could be doing it for the right reasons, but in the wrong way, or too much, really not in the wrong way, but just too much for too long. And it puts a strain on the body, it puts a strain on the soul. Same thing with work, you know. A modicum of ambition is a great thing because it propels you forward, it motivates you, it gets you going, but too much ambition can become self-destructive or destructive to others. So do you see what I'm saying? And the inner child here is needing freedom to play. They're needing time to just run around in the sun, and it's like they've been down in the dark for too long. They're starting to lose that sense of childlike joy. And the heart, when it loses that, can become quite heavy. And that, again, just it really compounds the weight of everything else that's being held or being dug through down there. So there is something that you need to let go, because for some of you, this may have been a grieving process, and you've like trying to dig into the past in relationships or into the past of your your own childhood or whatever it was. It's like trying to figure out and asking so many questions about why things happened the way they did and trying to understand them. But maybe you just haven't gotten to the point in your life where that context comes in and it finally makes sense. Maybe you just need to give it more time, and continuing the searching is really just hurting you more and keeping you locked in those old things, that old energy. I feel like at some point you've kind of got to just let it go. And I don't mean that to sound invalidating, so please don't take it that way, because you can't just let something go that affects your entire life or that shaped you or that is like in your core. You know, it's like, this is what I went through. This is real. And I'm like, I get that. I totally get that. And so it's not about letting it go flippantly or trying to avoid it or ignore it, or just, it's not to invalidate it and the importance of doing that inner work or that healing. It's to understand that you need time in the sun too. You need time for sometimes frivolity, because that can be healing too. Just joy and a space for fun and freedom, and not always having to use your intuitive abilities or your imagination to solve these deep, complex, painful riddles. Sometimes it is about play. Sometimes it is about relaxing. Sometimes it is about just letting your fantasy and your imagination do the fun things that it wants to do. Sometimes that can be just as constructive, if not more so, because it's healing. So long as it's not being done for escape. So again, there's so much nuance to this, but in this energy, in this message, it's very positive, and it's asking you to use play to your advantage and to help to balance out some of that deeper, darker work that you've possibly been called to do or that you've taken on without realizing, and counterweighting that or counterbalancing it with that joy again. It's like soul nourishment, and it is very, very cleansing. Okay, I want to go in with the animal deck. It has been calling me almost in every single reading for the past, I don't know, a few months or so even. Ooh, the whale. I'm hearing something about a heart song, and I'm seeing a pod of whales swimming together. Something about harmony or harmonizing. The golden egg. Something about a golden child. The lion. I heard the inner self is revealed to have courage. I think you've proven that. Yeah, I think you've proven that. And the hawk. I'm hearing a time and a place. There's a time and a place here for everything. Unicorn on the bottom. So this is your third eye. This is your ability to see through that lens, to shine that light, to see into the darkness. And it's also about the inner child and reconnecting with that innocence, because it's through that innocence that purification takes place. Now, I feel like we need to look at the whale. Look at this. Desire to delve deeper, profound peace, and ancient wisdom. The whale represents profound emotional health and stability. Whale personalities are not afraid of emotional expression or traversing difficult terrain, as they have overcome many challenges in their lives. These experiences have enriched them, given them stability, strength, and a depth that is rare. I'm hearing quite rare. Whale energy is usually linked to the feminine forces of compassion and communication. We can depend on whale personalities when all else seems lost, and trust them to be a beacon in our darkest hour. When in balance, they are calm, steady, and deeply compassionate. When out of balance, they become heavy or slip into the old story. To bring into balance, regular self-care. You can't make this shit up, guys. You see that? Okay. That's strongly the message here. Very strongly. I am being called to hawk as well, so I'm going to read that too. Watchful, all-seeing messenger of divinity. The sharp eyes of the hawk watch our every move. This keen-eyed bird has the ability to see every little detail as well as the bigger picture. When this card appears, fate has its eyes on you, and the winds are shifting. It is said that the hawk carries news upon its wings and is sent from divinity itself to deliver it. The message should not be taken lightly. Though it may seem small or insignificant, it will eventually redirect your course. When in balance, it sees clearly and is intuitive. When out of balance, it sees too much or becomes suspicious. My heart got really heavy and I stumbled over the, it's already happened. Holy crap. Yeah. When this is the energy that's out of balance, you guys. Sees too much or has become suspicious. It's like you've seen too much of the dark and it weighed heavy on your heart. And it needs to be balanced. It needs to be balanced with self-care. I'm getting like really intense energy shift through my body. My tongue got prickly. I started hearing like I can't talk anymore. It's like it's pricking me in the face. It feels painful. It feels painful. Just even tapping into this energy at all. To bring it into balance, a perspective shift. The hawk is the bridge between worlds, and it is the messenger of the angelic realm. And so I feel like if you are this hawk personality, you do see a lot. And especially with the unicorn here, which is also talking about intuition and psychic abilities. It's like you are very sensitive. You do see and feel a lot. And I want to validate that for you because I think part of this message is also about like this very subtle or subconscious or possibly overt, but it feels very subtle and deceptive, this energy of self-denial. And that self-denial is invalidating, and the invalidation of the self and its needs and like the pushing of the self into these boundless territories that don't have an end. It's like going into a bottomless pit and not knowing when to stop going. It feels very tricky. Part of this message is about self-recognition, recognizing yourself, the effort you're putting in, the work you're doing, the messages that you're receiving and sharing, the abilities that you have, the responsibilities that, yes, you do have, but also those that maybe you've claimed that you don't need to carry. Because the weight of that seems to be far disproportionate to what you're actually meant to do. And I'm also hearing capable of. Like maybe the weight that you've been carrying is disproportionate to what you're capable of carrying. It's like you're not built to carry that. You were never meant to take that on. And that's why this message of self-care is coming out so strongly. And it's being encouraged, not just encouraged, urged. It's urgent. So I'm going to put that in the title. This is an urgent message, because to ignore it is going to lead to, I'm hearing a surplus of heaviness, okay? A surplus of heaviness that you do not need to bear. You were not meant to bear. You are not responsible for that. You certainly don't deserve it. And your inner child is needing you right now. Or literally, let's say, for example, you have children. You also have responsibilities at work or running a business. And it's like, that is very important because that does support the family. But at the same time, your children need you. And you need to return to this state of self-awareness, perpetual self-awareness, where you can keep coming back there and checking back in to see where you are and where you need to be going. And I'm hearing don't push any further, at least not right now. It's not the time to push further. It's the time to set yourself free and fly out of that cave temporarily. You can always come back to it. You can always do that work again, but this time is necessary and needed for you to unburden your heart. It just feels so heavy. I'm almost like, I feel like I'm drowning in it. I feel like I'm choking and fighting for air. It's time to come up then. It's time to come up for air, friend. It's time to come up for air. If you're at the point where you're choking on it, you need to come up. You need to come out. It's okay. You did more than enough. You did so good. You can go back again when you're ready if you want to. If you don't want to, you don't need to. You can walk away. You can let it go. It's time to let it go. It's time to move on. And I promise you that the healing that comes from that is far going to outweigh any of that disguised blessing, as in the burden itself. Like the blessing ends up not being disguised anymore because it comes in the form of something that is not painful. The blessing is no longer camouflaged in pain and suffering. It can be just simply allowed to be a blessing. So I think I'm going to leave the message here, 3131, as I looked up at the time. And I hope it was helpful. I hope it was healing. I hope it was validating. I hope that it helps you to renew some of this inner spirit that may have been crushed by some of this burden, and that you recognize how valuable your integrity truly is, and how it is your responsibility to maintain that by not depleting yourself or pushing yourself past your limits. Okay, my friend, I love you. Take care of yourself. We'll see you in the next reading. Bye.